you know the reaction is always strong from the MMA community, the hardcores, who essentially make up a very small percentage of the audience. Actually, the sport would have died if it was just for, and I will call myself a hardcore, the sport would have died years ago if they didn't expand the audience, which leads us to the very green BRock Lesnar, only 7 fights, going on The Ultimate Fighter as a coach. Some of the reaction, as always expected, from the hardcores is, oh, I hate this, what's he going to teach him? And yet, I think you and I know, and Dave knows this as a casual MMA fan, that this is a huge coup and the show will do well. And, you know, Lesnar's another guy who sometimes doesn't think about what he's saying. So it has hit and positives written all over it.
You know, sometimes I'm not sure it's totally the hardcore community because, like I said, or like you said, rather, you know, you're a hardcore fan and you get it. I feel like I lived with a hardcore experience being in the media. I think I kind of get it, at least a little bit. But there is certainly, what you're pointing out is that there's certainly some kind of element to the rabid MMA base that lives in a house and doesn't understand or respect what keeps the lights turned on. If you have a problem with BRock Lesnar being the coach of The Ultimate Fighter, you are the dumbest person ever. Ever. You're the dumbest person ever to have been born. He is single-handedly moving the needle for this sport in a way, I'm sorry, George St. Pierre does not do. I don't care if he is or is not the most decorated athlete coming out of Canada. You can't touch this guy, and I've got the data to prove it. Any number of ways you want to prove it. Web traffic, histories of Google search going back several years, pay-per-view buys. I mean, how else do you want to measure this? This show is not about whether Lesnar is going to be a good coach. Those aren't the credentials. The credentials are, and what's it's about delivering ratings. And the most crazy part about this whole entire thing is that here is the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which not only has the capacity but the willingness to adapt to market forces, is doing it and not getting credit for it. Right? So Strikeforce launches this tournament. I'm sure Lesnar was always like a goal they want to get for the show, but Strikeforce launches this tournament, and Kane is out, and the show obviously it only gets really big ratings when there's a big star on there. There's a reliable but unimpressive ratings base without it, and they get this guy, which is a massive coup, as you pointed out, and fans have the audacity to say, well, is he going to be a great coach? Who gives an F? Who gives an F? The best prospects, John Jones and Sin Barboza, they don't come from the Ultimate Fighter. They come from the undercard. That's where they come from. Yeah, occasionally you're going to get your Ryan Baders, and occasionally you're going to get some other guys that are pretty decent, but that's not what it's about. It's about being and keeping the Ultimate Fighting Championship brand on cable television week after week. That's it. Lesnar does that in spades. End of debate.
Well, I love Twitter because it gives you a chance to, on radio and the blogosphere, to go back and forth with fans. And I had a guy arguing with me earlier today up on Twitter named Elan Yaden, and he's really upset, thinks it's circus-like, says that basically it's screwing over some of the hardcores who they built this sport on. I'm just going to ask you guys, if you want to put in, what do you want to do, 500 apiece, 5,000 apiece? He says, let's bet on how many fans will stick around after the season. What's next? Superman? Maybe Batman? They want to try MMA. Hey, Elon, if you're listening right now, and I actually sent him a tweet a little while ago to listen wherever he is, if you want, UFC did 9.1 million pay-per-view buys last year. If that's what we're going to base it on, I'm going to lower it a little bit because Lesnar may not have 2 fights this year. You're claiming that fans are going to leave the sport in droves. I'll set the over-under at what? I'll still go 8 million. I'll go over. Dave, you want in? Luke, you want in?
It's going to grow the sport.
Luke, you want in? You want to put some money up on this? 8 million pay-per-view buys after they just did 9.1. I think I'll take that bet. I'll go over. You guys go under if you want.
No thanks.
I mean, it's comically stupid what this guy is saying. Since when does a rising tide not lift all boats? If I was a welterweight and I showed up to that show and I found out that BRock Lesnar was one of my coaches, I would kiss the ground and praise Jesus or whatever God you pray to for finally giving me a platform where I'm actually going to get noticed. And for every 5 guys, and it's just 5 guys, these are the same 5 guys that think that some random undercard fight between Class A Shuto champions and Deep all of a sudden is a magnificent expression of mixed martial arts. There's 5 of them that are going to leave, and they're going to attract 500,000 more of them to replace them. So if he wants to leave, good riddance, but it ain't going to affect the bottom line.
I got to tell you, as a wild card entry, I think John Fitch just called him and said, I need to reinvent my career. I want to try out at 170. Please let me on the show. I mean, come on. All right, Luke, great job. Luke has one of the best blogs out there. It's the volume is sick. It's bloodyelbow.com, and he's also a guy who has a little intelligence and a little perspective as well. I mean, he sees his own numbers, you know. I think that's the funny thing about, and I'll close on this, Luke. You can attest to this fact. That's the funny thing when you have readers and critics talk about what delivers and how fans are going to react. Like, fellas, we see our back end numbers on what we write about, so we kind of have an idea what delivers audience.
And it's not. I'll make this quick. It's not just that, and you're right completely. Obviously Brock Lesnar delivers. Brock Lesnar delivers in ways that Fedor plus Gina Carano plus Kimbo Slice can't even really match. But it's more than that. A lot of times people say, well, with Kimbo Slice, there was a trade-off in quality. And there is. And listen, I'm not saying that Brock Lesnar is the number one heavyweight in the world. There are obviously guys that can beat him. Cain Velasquez is one of them. But he's a top 5, minimum top 10 heavyweight in the world. It's not a trade-off in quality. You're actually getting a legitimate high-level MMA heavyweight fighter who also has a monster ability to deliver an audience. If you don't like that, you can go watch hockey.
All right, Luke, nice job.